lahars. Dangerous mudslides formed when volcanic debris mixes with rainwater.
No, di luar dalam.
Hancur deh. Sadis.
Nah, bakade. Kesini lagi itu di ujung.
Masalah kayak umum belok kayak hal kayak hanya begini saja.
A powerful volcanic eruption occurred on June 17, 2025, at Mount Lewotobi Laki-Laki in Indonesia. The eruption was sudden and violent, sending a towering ash column over 11 kilometers into the sky. Thick clouds of ash darkened the horizon, while a deafening roar echoed through the valleys and towns surrounding the mountain.
Masa selama ini kan dokter itu ilmunya kita lihat begini tuh.
Kakaknya sih semuanya.
Gunung Lewotobi baru melihat.
This dramatic eruption marks one of the most significant volcanic events in Indonesia this year. Authorities responded immediately by raising the eruption alert to the highest possible level. This move came after monitoring systems detected an intense spike in volcanic activity.
Ini kecelakaan darat atau kecelakaan gotong? Ini anjing nih. Macam ada tangan raksasa. Bentuknya macam begini.
Menatap apa sudah yang bisa.
Itu tangan raksasa macam begini. Tapi saya rasa itu bukan.
In the span of just 2 hours, over 50 eruption-related events were recorded, more than 5 times the usual daily count. The speed and intensity of the eruption took many by surprise, but emergency protocols were swiftly activated. Residents living near the volcano were instructed to evacuate or remain indoors.
Oi, kira tutup sampai bang. Oi, mama
Ay, kasihan.
The exclusion zone was expanded to a radius of 8 kilometers around the crater. Local officials distributed masks and issued public safety messages to prevent inhalation of fine ash particles, which pose serious health risks. People were warned not only about ashfall, but also about potential lava flows in lahars. Dangerous mudslides formed when volcanic debris mixes with rainwater.
No, di luar dalam.
The eruption produced a colossal ash plume visible from over 100 kilometers away. The sky turned a dark gray as ash began falling on nearby villages, coating rooftops, trees, and roads in a blanket of fine powder. Visibility dropped sharply in several areas, and the strong sulfuric smell of volcanic gases filled the air.
Ini lebih dasar.
Hukum mama dulu. Ya, pada motor. Oh, ada mama.
No, hey, gunung meletus lagi. Hey, gunung meletus lagi no. Hai, gunung meletus lagi.
Residents scrambled to cover wells and water supplies to avoid contamination. Flights in the region were placed on high alert. Although there were no immediate flight cancellations, aviation authorities closely monitored ash movement, as volcanic ash can severely damage aircraft engines.
Lewotobi kembali meletus di sore hari ini. Sore hari ini. Abunya semakin banyak. Teman-teman. Bahaya sekali ini. Iya, warga-warga pada nonton semua ini.
The ash cloud from the eruption reached cruising altitudes of international flights, prompting airlines to reroute or prepare for temporary airspace closures if conditions worsened. This eruption is not the first in recent months. Mount Lewotobi Laki, part of a twin-peaked volcanic complex, has shown increased activity since late 2023. Previous eruptions in March and May of this year already led to evacuation efforts and disrupted air travel. However, the June 17th event was notable for its scale and intensity. The height of the ash plume, the number of eruptions in a short period, and the speed of seismic escalation all suggest a particularly volatile phase in the volcano's behavior.
Mama, tutup semua betina. Ay, mama, sadis main hari ini. Mama, sadis
Seismic and volcanic monitoring teams have remained stationed around the volcano using satellite imagery, drones, and gas detection equipment to analyze the eruption. They reported significant tremors and thermal anomalies before the main eruption, indicating the upward movement of magma. This data helped predict the eruption, although the exact timing remained uncertain until the moment it occurred. Local communities are no strangers to volcanic hazards, but the rapid escalation caught many off guard. Several thousand people have temporarily relocated to safer areas, and emergency shelters were opened to provide food, water, and medical care.
Aduh. Hai sayang. Gunung meletus lagi. Ini atas asap yang mengepul atas. Hai. Hopan.
Tahu. Tahu.
Wah, Tuhan.
Schools in nearby towns have been closed, and public transportation has been disrupted. One of the biggest concerns now is the possibility of secondary disasters. With tropical rain expected over the coming days, the heavy accumulation of ash could lead to lahars. These fast-moving flows can bury roads, homes, and fields, causing devastation even long after the initial eruption has ended. Authorities are urging residents living near rivers and slopes to remain vigilant. Environmental impacts are also significant.
Dia bulat di atas.
Dia bulat di atas.
Dia sangat tukar itu.
Jangan langsung ke mobil.
Ujung memang, kelompok memang.
When the earth quakes, all hell. Breaks loose.
Oh my god, we're having an earthquake. Wait a minute. Hold on.
They strike with lightning speed, a huge bolt of destruction. These forces baffle experts who are on a desperate mission to predict when and where the next big one will hit.
With each earthquake, you have things that you didn't predict before.
We'll circle the globe, examining significant earthquakes of our time, each more powerful than the last, each with its own compelling mysteries, each propelling us towards a projected mega disaster, a monster quake that could rock our world. Earthquakes are one of the most destructive and unpredictable forces on the planet. Without warning, solid ground cracks, shifts and buckles, threatening anything in its path. It's estimated that several million earthquakes shake the planet every year. Most are barely detectable tremors, but at least once a year, somewhere on the globe, a major event strikes. Most earthquakes are created by movements of titanic slabs of the Earth's crust, called tectonic plates. Enormous pressure builds as the plates strain against each other. When plates slide past each other, a strike-slip earthquake forms. When plates collide head-on and one slides under the other, a thrust earthquake occurs. In both cases, the Earth's crust tears and snaps, releasing a giant burst of seismic force. The amount of energy released by an earthquake is known as its magnitude. The higher the magnitude, the more energy released. An earthquake of magnitude 8 or higher releases as much energy as 1 billion tons of TNT, or 67,000 Hiroshima bombs. Earthquakes' destructive energy has cost almost 8 million lives in the last 1,000 years. The fatality rate is rising as populations in high-risk areas increase dramatically.
And it's kind of an inevitable shift as people cluster more and more. The largest cities continue to grow larger and larger.
Today, there are 17 cities jammed with more than 10 million people. 140 other metropolitan areas have populations topping 2 million. More than half of these are within striking distance of a major fault line, placing hundreds of millions directly in the line of fire.
A lot of times, we are our own worst enemies in terms of where we build and how we build these cities.
It's only a matter of time before another city is hit by a devastating earthquake. To prepare for the inevitable future, it's essential to learn from the past. October 17, 1989, San Francisco, California. For 15 horrific seconds, the city by the bay is rocked by a magnitude 6.9 earthquake. The epicenter is near a mountain in Santa Clara County called Loma Prieta.
Everybody's door and help them get out.
Suburbs close to the mountain suffer serious damage. The ground splits open in huge gashes, hundreds of homes are thrown off their foundations, and small communities are ripped apart.
62 people were dead.
But bizarrely, the greatest devastation and loss of life is 97 kilometers to the north in Oakland and San Francisco. The quake brings down a section of Oakland's Cypress Expressway, turning a busy freeway into a graveyard. Oakland firefighter Lorenzo Frediani is one of the first to respond.
It was a horrible scene. It was such a large-scale disaster. Seeing huge pieces of the freeway on top of cars, fires beginning to erupt, everyone just yelling and screaming for help.
Frediani and other rescuers race to find survivors. They fear the worst, that thousands are dead under the shattered remains of the expressway.
This was at 5 o'clock approximately. This is its peak time. There should be bumper-to-bumper traffic. So when I saw the Cypress unfold in front of me, all I could think about was how many thousands of people would be dead.
But amidst the horror, there is a life-saving stroke of luck. The earthquake hit as the two local baseball teams, the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland Athletics, faced off in the World Series. Millions are watching the game, and traffic is much lighter than usual.
The fact that we had the ball game between the two Bay Area teams easily saved thousands of lives.
As rescuers desperately try to free those trapped on the Cyprus Expressway, another disaster unfolds across the bay. Nearly 200 buildings in the Marina district are severely damaged or completely destroyed. Fires started by broken gas mains add to the damage and panic. Stunned residents flee into the streets. But even as the marina suffers catastrophic damage, neighborhoods surrounding it escape almost unscathed. Seismologists like Jack Boatwright struggle to understand the quake's selective destruction.
The ground motion and damage in the marina was a surprise not just to the lay people, it was also a surprise to seismologists.
The earthquake seemed to defy logic. It targeted two specific areas, 97 kilometers from the epicenter, leaving most of the Bay Area untouched. Boatwright and his colleagues set out to solve this mystery by going back to basics. When a fault ruptures, spherical waves of energy are released, traveling through the ground until they reach the surface. Like any other kind of wave, they can bend, reflect, or join together to make bigger waves. Oakland and the Marina District were unlucky enough to be hit by a seismic double team, two sets of waves that joined together. One set traveled directly from the earthquake center to the surface. Another traveled deep into the earth, then bounced off the boundary between the solid crust and the molten layer beneath it. The reflected waves reached the surface 97 kilometers away from their source, directly under Oakland and the Marina District. This seismic double whammy was bad enough, but it became much worse when combined with a fatal mistake made by the city's forefathers. 100 years ago, this land didn't exist. As the Bay Area rapidly expanded, stretches of ocean became beachfront property. The shallow edges of the bay were filled in with sand and debris.
The difficulty is these very fine and clean sands. When an earthquake occurs and you start shaking them, there's really nothing binding the sand together. It becomes actually a liquid.
Liquefaction is a deadly side effect of many large earthquakes. As solid ground turns to liquid, roads are destroyed, buildings topple, and underground pipes rupture. Liquefaction severed a gas main in the marina, igniting an inferno. The total cost of the quake was huge. 63 people died, 4,000 were injured, and 20,000 structures were damaged or destroyed. For seismologists, the 6.9 Loma Prieta quake was a brutal wake-up call. They were surprised by the reflection of seismic waves that struck the Marina District and Oakland.
With each earthquake, you have things that you didn't predict before. Every earthquake is, in fact, a learning experience.
But the 1989 Loma Prieta quake was not the worst to strike San Francisco. The same side effects of liquefaction and fire killed thousands when a much bigger earthquake struck, destroying most of the city by the bay.
Around the turn of the century, San Francisco was actually the premier city on the west coast of the United States.
The city featured luxury hotels and modern high-rise buildings. But in 1906, many came crashing down.
The earthquake occurred about 5:12 in the morning on April 18th, And when it occurred, it essentially occurred without warning.
A loud roar jolted thousands out of their beds. Seconds later, a giant shockwave hit the city, shaking buildings to their foundations. The West Coast's economic and architectural center lay in ruins. At the time, seismology was in its infancy, and the quake's cause was not well understood. We now know the city was caught in the middle of an ancient battle between the Pacific and North American tectonic plates, an infamous war zone called the San Andreas Fault. These mighty slabs of crust are scraping past each other directly beneath San Francisco. When sections become locked together, enormous pressure builds up and is released as a strike-slip earthquake. In 1906, 435 kilometers of the fault ruptured. A magnitude 7.8 quake released 8 times more energy than the 1989 event. The first and fastest waves released by any earthquake are primary or P waves. They act like a sonic boom, shaking the ground and rattling windows. A few seconds behind are the secondary or S waves. These carry most of the earthquake's energy and are the most destructive kind of seismic wave. In San Francisco, the S waves tore huge gashes in the earth and ripped apart building foundations like paper. But it was another side effect of the earthquake that sealed the city's fate. Liquefaction of the ground severed gas and water mains, and San Francisco began to burn. Without a water supply, the fire department stood by helpless as the city burned to the ground.
The descriptions of the fire they actually refer to this as a firestorm. And in a firestorm, the heat is so intense that it actually sucks in air.
The fire raged for 3 days, incinerating 10 square kilometers, destroying more than 28,000 buildings and leaving 250,000 residents homeless. More than 3,000 people were killed. The 1906 event proved that an earthquake's complex side effects can be more devastating than the quake itself. 80 years later, a bigger earthquake crippled a city 45 times larger than San Francisco. The key culprits? A totally different seismic side effect combined with disastrous city planning. But even that quake is dwarfed by a potential mega-quake, an event of enormous power and consequence. The San Francisco earthquakes of 1906 and 1989 showed how reflection and liquefaction can have tragic consequences. In 1985, one of the largest cities in the world was crippled by an earthquake with even stranger and more unpredictable effects. It proved that where you build a city is as important as how you build it. Mexico City is one of the world's largest cities, with a current population of more than 20 million. The metropolis sprawls across a mountain valley in the center of Mexico. It's a city of non-stop activity, its massive population busy day and night. On September 19, 1985, dawn breaks on a typical autumn morning. Millions of people face the new day. Suddenly, the earth begins to writhe and buckle. A magnitude 8 earthquake strikes the city. The epicenter is off Mexico's west coast. It unleashes 6 times more destructive energy than the 1906